Chapter 86. I Have My Way. And then, did Miss Lan say anything? Mo-san asked. She said she went to the library today and was at school the whole day. Mo Jinrong found the excuse unbelievable, but judging from Lan Anran's calm expression, she didn't seem to be lying. I don't think there's any problem with Miss Lan, young master. You're still suspecting her? The most important thing now is medical equipment. How much medical equipment do you think the Lin Corporation will give us? Mo-san asked. We'll take whatever they can give. As long as we get this batch of medical equipment, we will give it to the poor at the lowest price, and this matter will be considered complete. Mo Jinrong looked out the window casually. Young master, the Mo Family Corporation is one of the top companies in the world. Why must we snatch the free medical equipment from the Lin Family Corporation? Wouldn't they accuse us of being greedy? Besides, those poor people won't thank you. In the past, we sold medicine, but now we have to pay for medical equipment too. It's not worth it. If we sell the medical equipment at the original price, we won't know how much money we can earn. Mo-san felt that it was a losing business. When has the Mo Family Corporation been stingy? It's just the poor don't like to use expensive things and free things are easier to sell. The Mo Family Corporation isn't a poor organization. I don't care about such small sum of money. If someone wants to talk, let them. What has it got to do with me? Mo Jinrong closed his eyes again. He was only concerned about one thing. Why wasn't his illness triggered? Young Master Mo, where are we going now? Back to the company. The next day was the test again. Today was the day Yang King, Sun Hai, and Zhao Xiaolei took the test. The three of them hated each other and had racked their brains during the competition. Yang King's choice was much more reliable than Zhao Xiaolei's. It was related to medicine that softened the blood vessels, but it paled in comparison to Sun Hai's. After the competition ended, Sun Hai was the first to come out. Her choice was medicine related to cerebral thrombosis. This time, she was very confident. She had prepared for this competition for an entire year. Even if she couldn't win the championship, she was still very confident in getting second place. Yang King was the second to come out. Sun Hai was Lan Yaxin's enemy, so she was naturally her enemy as well. She first ridiculed Sun Hai. Eternal second. This time you might even be second again. How pitiful. You're pitiful too. You can't even make it to second place, Sun Hai retorted with a smile. She couldn't even get it into the top 10, not to mention second place. How dare she mock her here? What a joke. Sun Hai, it's alright if you blast off on the spur of the moment. I'm just afraid you'll have to clean the toilets after the competition. It'll be interesting to watch. Yang King smiled as she continued to mock her. Lan Yang King's lackey is mocking others. You should make sure you won't be eliminated first. Zhao Xiaolei came out from behind and smiled. Who are you calling a lackey? Yang King was quite angry. The one who answers. It's disgusting to follow Lan Yaxin around every day, Zhao Xiaolei continued. Although she didn't like Sun Hai, she hated lackeys even more. You... Yang King was furious, but this is outside the examination room, and she would be expelled for causing trouble. She didn't dare to cause trouble and could only stomp her feet in anger. You what? Go away. We have to go to class for lessons after your exams. I don't have time for this. Zhao Xiaolei was from a wealthy family, which frightened Yang King. Her mother often told her that the family was poor and she shouldn't make any trouble. She could only endure many things. Back in school, Zhao Xiaolei told Lan Anran about how she had scolded Yang King. I don't know how good it felt to see Yang King's expression so dark. Lan Anran smiled. She enjoyed Zhao Xiaolei's personality of fighting for the sake of justice. Suddenly, Lin Chang's furious curse came from the back of the classroom. "Shut up, you're so annoying." The chatter from his classmates had disturbed his sleep. He was furious that Lin Jingkong had vented his frustrations on him over the company's theft. "Lin Chen, are you crazy? This is a class, and you're not letting anyone speak? If you want to sleep, go home and go sleep. What has your company's incident got to do with us? Why are you angry at us?" The person who spoke was Lin Chang's good friend, Qin Ying. "How did you know something happened to my dad's company?" Lin Chang asked solemnly. "My dad said that the Lin Corporation was played around with a hacker yesterday. Everyone in the business world knows about this. I heard that Mo Jinrong was even invited to save the day, and he immediately asked for a large pile of medical equipment as compensation." "Who doesn't know this?" King Yang shouted. His family specialized in pharmacy chains and had a large business. Ayn Rand listened to everything. No wonder Mo Jinrong came to ask her yesterday. Fortunately, her acting skills were good enough to deceive him. She had to investigate why Mo Jinrong wanted the Lin family's free medical equipment, as it was suspicious. "If I find out who that hacker is, I'll rip him apart," Lin Chang swore. If it weren't for that hacker, he wouldn't have been scolded by Lin Jikong in vain. Ayn Rand smiled, not feeling bothered at all. Suddenly, the school bell rang and Li Yu walked in. "Students, the results of the previous test has come out. Lin Chang is the only one in our class who took the test, but he did not pass. Everyone, let's work hard and keep up the good work." Li Yu glanced at Lin Chang, but didn't say anything. He was the eldest son of the Lin Corporation, so it didn't matter if he didn't do well, because no one would care. There was a flurry of discussion amongst the students. With Li Yu's silence, the class fell silent. Chapter 87, Medical Accident? There were only 2 classes in the afternoon, so everyone went home after the class. Ayn Rand didn't want to leave the tiger grass alone for too long, so she returned to the countryside to crush it and add it to the reagent. The initial step of the reagent was complete, but she still needed to observe the adverse effects. It might take a while for Mo Jinrong to use it. Ayn Rand saw that it was getting late, so she seized the opportunity to hurry back during dinner time. At the dining table, Lan Ting-young and Li Yuro talked about medical equipment. The hospital lacks medical devices now, but it isn't so easy to find good ones. Now that the hospital is developing better and there are more and more people, there isn't enough equipment. Lan Ting-young couldn't eat at the thought of it. "Hubby, don't worry, we can't rush this. The hospital is much better than before. We can still use the old ones. If not, we can buy 1 or 2 for ourselves." Li Yuro smiled. "Mom, Dad, don't worry. I have a classmate whose family specializes in medical equipment. I'll talk to him and see if we can get a batch. We can get a discount or something." Ayn Rand smiled. "Really? What's his name and company?" Lan Ting-young was a little excited to hear this. "Mom, Dad, he just started a new company and isn't very famous. I haven't asked yet, but I'll tell you when I find out." Ayn Rand's innocent smile comforted Lan Ting-young and his wife. "That would be great. Your father has had a lot of white hair recently, so he can get a good night's sleep after this matter is resolved." Li Yuro smiled as she spoke. Okay, go ahead and ask. You must hurry. There are several machines in the hospital that go on strike every day. I'm worried to death." "All right," Ayn Rand nodded. "Sis, you're so awesome." Ayn Rand looked at his sister. No matter what she did, he thought that she was great. "Ayn Rand, we must discuss the price of your classmate. This isn't a small sum and we can't be careless. If it doesn't work out, let your father take a look. I'm worried." The Euro felt that Ayn Rand was still a child and was worried about the way she would handle this. "Mom, Dad, it's all right. Let me ask first, and then we'll talk again." Ayn Rand comforted her. The traditional Chinese medicine hospital was her parents' blood, sweat, and tears. It was equivalent to their children. Hence, she attached great importance to it. The Euro didn't say anything but nodded and continued eating. After the meal, Yanran was browsing his phone in boredom when suddenly a piece of news popped up to his phone. He opened his eyes wide and read it again in disbelief. Suddenly he shouted, "Mom! Dad! Something big has happened!" Lyra was startled. "What's wrong?" She hurriedly put down the work in her hand. Yanran ran over and passed the phone to his mother with a solemn expression. Lyra frowned, her expression becoming solemn. There was news from their hospital on the screen. Someone was causing trouble in the hospital, claiming that their child had been treated to death, and the incident has been posted online. Everyone was discussing it. "What happened?" Lyra frowned. She had been on sick leave and had no idea what happened in the hospital. "Ting-young! Ting-young!" Lyra stomped her feet anxiously, and Lan Ting-young hurried downstairs when he heard the voice. "What's wrong?" "Ting-young, the internet said that there was a medical malpractice in the hospital, and they deliberately kept it a secret. Is that true?" Lyra grabbed Lan Ting-young's hand. "No, there has been several deaths recently, but they were normal and nothing to do with our hospital." Lan Ting-young pushed up his glasses and frowned. "You're not lying to me? What is the truth about the incident?" Lyra showed the phone to Lan Ting-young. "Nonsense! This is slander. Our hospital doesn't have any medical malpractice. I was the main surgeon, but he couldn't be saved when he was sent over." Lan Ting-young was furious. At that moment, Anne saw the news as well. She believed that her father wouldn't do such a thing. It must have been caused by old Mrs. Lan. In her previous life, she had thought of ways to frame her youngest son. "No, I have to go to the hospital now and explain to the patient's family. Our hospital can't take the blame." Lan Ting-young left immediately. There was a lot of criticism online, and as if it went on, it would definitely affect the hospital's reputation. "Dad, I'll go with you. Mom, you stay here with Yanran." Yanran ran out in a hurry. At the hospital, when Lan Ting-young and Lan Anran arrived at the hospital, they saw a man and woman sitting at the entrance. They were holding large signs of red character and were wailing loudly. There were many patients and nurses surrounding them, all of whom were taking pictures on their mobile phones, attracting quite a number of reporters. Lan Ting-young rushed in angrily. "What are you doing? Your child had a heart attack and passed away before he was sent over. It has nothing to do with me." The crowd at the entrance of the hospital was agitated, certain that this was a mistake caused by Lan Ting-young's surgery. Many people cursed. When Anran saw her father suffer, she couldn't endure it. She rushed in and stood in front of Lan Ting-young. "This has nothing to do with my father. There are surveillance records in the hospital that can be investigated, and there is a medical report. We don't take the blame if everyone accuses my father for no reason. You said that my father caused the death of your child, but he didn't do anything wrong. We welcome the investigation. If any grievances are found out, don't blame us for being merciless." Chapter 88, Medical Disaster. The man and woman sitting on the ground immediately stopped crying and looked at each other with guilty expressions. "What did you say? My son was killed by you. Don't come to this hospital. It's too dangerous." The man stood up angrily. "Everyone, take a good look. In this black-hearted hospital, these black-hearted doctors treat your lives as like a joke. You'll have to pay me back for taking my son's life, you quack." The woman was sobbing. "The purpose of your fuss is to destroy our hospital. If we don't have a guilty conscience, we won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on our doors." Anran spoke again. "Compensate. We want the money," the woman cried, and the man nudged the woman. Lan Ting-young wanted to say something, but was stopped by Lan Anran. Giving it now would mean admitting to it, and it would make them even more suspicious. However, they could still test their intentions. "How much do you want?" Anran asked. "Are you admitting to what you did?" A reporter stretched out his microphone. Anran glanced at him and ignored him, continuing to look at the woman on the ground. The woman rolled her eyes. "1,000,000. We want 1,000,000. Anran smiled, her eyes full of ridicule. "Then should I pay for your retirement fee, your psychological damage, and your child's surgery?" How about I take care of your expenses while you're alive? The woman smiled innocently. That would be great. She could have money to spend without working. Lansing Young tugged the corner of Lan Ann Rand's clothes, signaling for her to stop. Dad, it's all right. Look at how happy she is after losing her son. Is this the behavior of a mother? She doesn't want an explanation and just wants money. Isn't it obvious that she just wants the money? After Ayn Rand exposed the woman's real motive, the woman immediately started to cry. Being unreasonable, my son, you died a horrible death. What a wicked hospital. In the dark, Zhao Shumi and Lan Tingyi's family watched with relish. Grandma, won't the hospital die if this continues? When the time comes. Before Lan Yaxin could finish speaking, Xu Yanshan covered her mouth. Your grandma is very shrewd. Did you really think she would make the hospital go bankrupt so easily? Your mom is right. This time we're putting Ting Young in his place. He will be no match for me. Zhao Shumi snorted. Mom, you're amazing. Lan Tingyi gave her the thumbs up. Not far away, Zhao Shumi continued to watch the couple's performance. My son, return my son to me. The man stood up abruptly with tears in his eyes. At this moment, a group of people in uniforms walked over. Lan Ting-young, the matter has blown up. We are from the health department. We're here to investigate this matter. Please cooperate with us. Lan Ting-young followed them to the hospital to give their medical records without a word. The man and woman on the ground were dumbfounded. They didn't find this group of people. Did their employer add to the show? Zhao Shumi, who wasn't far away, was dumbfounded. What was happening? Ayn Rand watched all of this in silence. She had informed the health department on the way here. Her father couldn't accept this injustice. Mom, you're even able to get the health department? Lan Tingyi continued. Are they from the health department? Crap. Zhao Shumi had an ominous feeling. She didn't expect the matter to escalate to such an extent. She just wanted to scare Lan Ting-young, and now things had turned bad. What's wrong? Xu Yanshan asked in fright. I'm just letting the two of them cause a scene at the hospital entrance. I didn't expect the health department to come. If they find out about us, it'll be over. Zhao Shumi was a little scared. What should we do? Lan Tingyi was anxious. The two of them can only continue to act, or they'll be exposed. Zhao Shumi scratched her head awkwardly. What should we do now? Xu Yanshan asked. Go home. Zhao Shumi looked upset. The crowd outside the hospital slowly dispersed in the middle of the night. The woman and man on the ground slipped away when they saw that there was no one else around. At the Lan family villa, Zhao Shumi was up all night, afraid that someone would come and catch her. During the day, Xu Yanshan hurried over to find out more information. Mom, how was it? Zhao Shumi stammered, not understanding the situation. In fact, she really didn't know what had happened. Mom, if this doesn't work out, let's apologize to Ting Young so you won't have to follow us and suffer. Xu Yanshan spoke pretentiously. No need. Why should I apologize to that unfiled son? I can support you. Zhao Shumi was a prideful woman, and she couldn't bring herself to beg her second child. At this moment, the man and woman who caused trouble yesterday came knocking. Old Mrs. Lan, there are two people outside looking for you. Nanny Wang bowed. Who is it? Let them in. Zhao Shumi was puzzled when two people walked in with a smile. Chapter 89. Got something against him. Old Mrs. Lan, it's us. You hired us to cause trouble. You said you would pay the bill in one day. Were you satisfied yesterday? The woman smiled. Ha! What did you do yesterday? Zhao Shumi spat. Hey, old Mrs. Lan, you asked us to do something yesterday. Stop talking and give us the money. The woman asked for the money confidently. What did you say yesterday? You asked for 1 million yuan from her the moment you opened your mouth. Did I ask you to do that too? Zhao Shumi was a little angry at the thought of yesterday. Old Mrs. Lan, you're turning against me. I'm going to expose you. The man pointed at Zhao Shumi and threatened her. They were also going to be detained for a medical dispute. A few days ago, old Mrs. Lan had solemnly promised that they would be safe after taking the money. Now she changed her mind. Don't be angry. That wasn't what my mom meant. You did well yesterday, and she wants to hire you two to continue the show. Xu Yanshen stepped forward as a peacemaker. The two of them rolled their eyes and remembered that the people from the health department had arrived yesterday. If this went on, they would definitely be exposed, and they might even be arrested. They didn't agree and shook their heads. No, we don't want to do this anymore. Find someone else. They can come to investigate yesterday. If this continues, we'll definitely be exposed. Give us the money and we'll leave. The man spoke firmly. You two scoundrels. You refuse to continue when I'm paying more? Where am I going to find someone else in such a short time? Zhao Shumi cursed. Don't be angry. This is how my mom is. We really can't replace the both of you. As long as you continue to act well, I promise that you will be fine and will pay you double the salary. Xu Yanshen persuaded kindly, and the two of them were tempted by double the salary. At that moment, Anne Ran barged in despite the nanny's obstruction. She had specially gotten someone to spread the news, asking the two troublemakers to find old Mrs. Lan. She was here to catch them. Oh, you have a guest? Grandma, you have such a young friend. Anne Ran mocked Zhao Shumi for being old, and her expression suddenly changed. This uncle and auntie look familiar. I seem to have seen them before. Zhao Shumi was a little surprised to see Lei and Anne Ran, so she hurriedly spoke to them. My granddaughter is here. See you later. Uncle, auntie, you left as soon as you arrived? Stay a little while longer. She looks a little familiar. Isn't she the one who caused trouble at my dad's hospital yesterday? Anne Ran couldn't help laughing when she saw old Mrs. Land's panicked expression. You're mistaken. Quickly leave. Zhao Shumi wanted to conceal it and urged them to leave. Wait a minute, isn't this you? Where else can you go? Anne Ran took out the photos from her phone and showed them. The two of them fell silent and their expressions gradually changed. You brat, what are you trying to do? Zhao Shumi was furious. Grandma, that's my question. Was Dad adopted? Are you a stepmother? Anne Ran asked softly. Zhao Shumi's face turned red with anger and she slammed the table. Vile being! I was teaching this uninfiled son a lesson. If he doesn't obey me, I'm going to ruin his reputation. What good will it do if you ruin it? Old thing, you'll pay the price. Anne Ran scolded blatantly. This is outrageous, as expected of an unfiled son giving birth to an unfiled daughter. Since the matter has been done, let's see if Lan Ting-Young still has the right to run the hospital. Zhao Shumi had admitted to everything she had done. Anne Ran smiled and took out her phone. I've already recorded it. Next, let's take a few photos. Let's see how you will continue to be the evergreen tree of the medical field. Anne Ran took a photo of the three of them. Zhao Shumi had a bad feeling. If this brat released the recording and photos, her lifelong reputation will be ruined. Hurry, hurry, hurry! Snatch your phone and delete the photos and recording. Don't let it leak. She stomped her feet anxiously. The man and woman were very shrewd. They knew that if this was exposed, they were finished. But Lan Anne Ran moved quickly, not giving them any chance. She took her phone and ran out the door, shouting as she ran, If you don't want to be found out, behave yourselves and wait for the investigation to end. Otherwise, none of you will be able to escape. Trash! Now Shumi was furious. Mom, what are we going to do now? Xu Yanshen had a bitter expression. She didn't expect this country girl to be so scheming. She had really underestimated her in the past. Old Mrs. Lan, we quit. Pay us now. The man immediately changed his mind and stretched out his hand. Old Mrs. Lan took a handful of cash and threw it on the ground impatiently. Take the money and leave. Don't ever appear in Wrong City again. The man and woman fell to the ground, picking up the scattered banknotes and hurriedly escaped. If I had known this jinx would annoy me so much, I would have strangled her to death. Zhao Shumi resented her granddaughter. Chapter 90. Everyone knows. Mom, it's useless to say this now. What should we do? Xu Yanshin was anxious. Seeing the family's money decrease little by little and her friends flaunting their wealth in front of her every day made her itch. What else can we do? Let's just calm down for the time being. I'll get even with that uninfiled son after this matter is over. Zhao Shumi gripped the armrest on her chair tightly, hatred evident in her eyes. Mom, I have a good idea. Tae-young is definitely busy trying to clear his name. You're a prestigious person in the medical field. If you step in and divert the public's attention by posting comments about supporting your son, there will definitely be a lot of people supporting you. It'll be easier for us to speak with Tae-young, right? Xu Yanshan knew how to take advantage of loopholes. This move would definitely pull Lan Tae-young back, and he might even give them more money. That's right, Yanshan, your brain is so sharp, Zhao Shumi praised. She took out her phone and decided against it after some thought. That brat just left and would be too obvious if I posted it now. When it's nighttime, Tae-young will have time to look at his phone. He will be too busy during the day to see it. Zhao Shumi had her own plans. The purpose of sending that message was to let Lan Tae-young see it. The hospital was being investigated, but Ayn Rand wasn't worried and went to school as usual. However, the videos online were spreading like fire and everyone knew about it. Ayn Rand, your father caused someone's death, you know that? Lin Chung spoke evilly. Ayn Rand originally didn't care about these rumors, but if someone said anything bad about her father in front of her, it wouldn't be up to her to hold back anymore. She stared at Lin Cheng with a horrifying gaze. Lin Cheng had never felt such a gaze before and broke out into goosebumps. Say that again? She spoke in a deep voice. Lin Cheng, you speak so poorly. It seems that hacker should visit your house again. Zhao Xiaolei pulled Lan Ayn Rand to the table and retorted. You what? Shut up, Zhao Xiaolei shouted. Ayn Rand didn't speak. She packed her bag quietly. She could feel the different looks from people around her. There was a flurry of discussion on the school's forum. Did Lan Ayn Rand's father really fail the surgery? How can a doctor that kills people perform surgery? We definitely can't keep such a wicked doctor. Lan Ayn Rand was so beautiful on the surface, but behind her back there was human blood. Lan Yaxin was implicated as well. Although she agreed with Grandma, the situation was beyond her control. She had to clarify the matter on the forum. My second uncle was framed, and this matter is still being under investigation. Don't believe the rumors. Yaxin, is it true about your second uncle? Yang King asked. What are you thinking? How is that possible? Yaxin already clarified the situation. Guki reproached her. Who accuses him then? Yang King asked. It must be an enemy. The hospital is the #1 traditional Chinese medical hospital in Wrong City. Some people are jealous, Guki said. Yaxin didn't speak but lowered her head and walked to the side in silence. The two of them thought she was upset and praised Yaxin for her kindness. They didn't know that Lan Yaxin deliberately avoided the accusations. Yaxin's exams were in the afternoon, and Yang King and Guki were there to cheer her on. Of course, Zhao Shumi, Lan Tingyi, and Xu Yanshan were there as well. This was their daughter's moment of glory, and they had to be there. Yaxin had made medicine that would loosen muscles and prevent muscle atrophy. She went in and introduced the composition to her mentor. Some people were especially interested in Lan Yaxin's medicine, especially a foreign mentor. Yaxin, the herbal composition of your medicine is quite unique. It really wasn't easy. The foreigner Bem spoke in an unfamiliar foreign accent. Thank you. I have to thank my grandma. She is a powerhouse in Wrong City's medical field and taught me. Lan Yaxin spoke politely and gave Zhao Shumi a big hat. Zhao Shumi was satisfied and she smiled. My granddaughter is the best. Mom, Yaxin is complimenting you in front of the foreigners. Xu Yanshan smiled. Isn't our mom a leading authority? Lan Tingyi echoed. Zhao Shumi was overjoyed by the compliment and continued to look at the big screen. Lan Yaxin, I think your medicine is great. I love Chinese herbs. They're perfect, the foreigner continued. Yaxin thanked him with a smile and injected some medicine into the cage. The examiners nodded, agreeing. When Lan Yaxin came out of the exam room, a group of people welcomed her. My daughter is great. Even the foreigners compliment her, Xu Yanshan spoke proudly. It seems my nurturing wasn't in vain. Let's see if Lan Ayn Rand can suppress Yaxin now. Zhao Shumi was furious when she mentioned Ayn Rand. Grandma, in my opinion, Lan Ayn Rand isn't capable at all. What good of medicine can a countryside girl cultivate? Just wait and see. Even though she entered the top 4, she will definitely embarrass herself. Yan King spoke confidently. Zhao Shumi nodded. That was what everyone thought. How can Lan Ayn Rand compare to our Yaksen? Xu Yanshan chided. Chapter 91, Bad Intentions. Let's not talk about such unlucky things. Come on, let's go. Grandma will take you shopping for good clothes and delicious food. Zhao Shumi held Yan Yaxen's hand happily. Yaxen followed Zhao Shumi's family to the mall, bought some pretty clothes, and had dinner. The people in the dining room were discussing Lan Tingyang embarrassing Zhao Shumi. Lan Tingyang ignored the outside world and stuffed his mouth with rice. Xu Yanshan kicked him, her gaze indicating for him to get down to business. Mom, Tingyang is alone and helpless. Should we support him? Lan Tingyang spoke as he ate. I know. Zhao Shumi spoke impatiently and took out her phone. Thinking about how to phrase it, she deleted a sentence, wrote another, and then deleted it. It took her more than half an hour to send it over with satisfaction. She was furious at the thought of shooting herself in the foot. She had to think of a way to stop her second child's family. Lan Tingyang was busy with the hospital and didn't return home until late. Li Yiro was worried. Hubby, what's wrong? It's all right. I didn't do anything wrong. If they want to investigate, go ahead. Don't worry, it'll get better soon. Lan Tingyang comforted her. I wonder what kind of family they are. Are they trying to extort money? Li Yiro asked. At this moment, Yan Rand ran over again. Mom, Dad, Sis, Grandma posted a Weibo to support Dad. Lan Tingyang took the phone and looked at the words seriously. My son, Lan Tingyang, would never do such a thing. I believe him. He is a good doctor and a good son. I swear on my 30-year status in the medical field that my son is innocent. Some people with ulterior motives are framing my son. Don't believe them. The truth will come to light. Son, all the best. The short text made Lan Tingyang tear up. He was very touched. He didn't expect his mother to still be on his side after this time. When Li Yiro saw these words, she couldn't feel any happiness at all. That old woman would never be so kind to help an unloved son. She most likely did it because of the hospital's reputation. Without the hospital, their income would be ruined. Dad, why do I feel that Grandma is doing this for her reputation and the hospital's reputation? Yan Rand thought so too. He didn't believe that old lady would be so kind. Yan Rand, no matter how bad she is still your grandmother. You can't speak like this again. Lan Tingyang chided. Dad, actually Grandma did this. Ayn Rand walked over. Ayn Rand, you can't talk nonsense. Lan Tingyang didn't believe it. He was her son after all, and she couldn't possibly cut off his escape route. Ayn Rand turned on the recording in her hand, and Lan Tingyang's expressions grew solemn. How could old Mrs. Lan do that? Li Yiro was so angry. Dad, I secretly recorded this when I went to Grandma's house. I didn't tell anyone as she is your mother. Ayn Rand turned off the recording. Lan Tingyang was a little surprised and was completely disappointed in his mother. He thought that his mother loved him at this time, but didn't expect her to put on a front for him. He calmed down. Ayn Rand, you did the right thing. Don't tell anyone about this. After Lan Tingyang finished speaking, he went upstairs feeling lonely, his back view full of disappointment. Your grandma must have been blinded by money. She even tried to frame her own son. Doesn't she feel the slightest bit guilty? Li Yiro couldn't take it anymore. Yan Rand pouted and cursed silently. I knew that she wouldn't be so kind as to help Dad. Mom, with this recording, Grandma won't find trouble with Dad for a while. Ayn was a little helpless. How did she even have such a grandma? She was really worrisome. Your father was hurt this time. That old lady went overboard, but fortunately your father's name will be cleared in a few days and the hospital will resume operations. Li Yiro was both overjoyed and upset. Ayn Rand hurriedly made a bowl of herbal soup for Li Yiro, who drank it and slowly fell asleep. Back in the room, Ayn Rand turned on her computer and saw the message Fatty had sent. Medical equipment is about to be obtained. Very good. After the Land family's matter is settled, I'll personally verify the goods. Ayn Rand spoke solemnly, closing her laptop to sleep. At the black market, Mojan Ram personally examined the batch of medical equipment. Young master, the Lin family really gave us so much medical equipment. It would have cost us a lot of money if we had spent it ourselves. Mosan smiled and looked at the medical equipment. Have you found a reliable person to take over? Mojan Rang asked coldly. A guy named Fatty contacted me a few days ago and is willing to take over all the medical equipment, Mosan replied respectfully. Fatty? Have you investigated him? Mojan Rang asked. Yes, there aren't any big problems. Young master, don't worry. It's all right. You should be more concerned about Miss Lan. Why didn't you inform us about such a big incident? Mosan lit a cigar for Mojan Rang. Chapter 92. Third young master Mo has completely lost his face. What is it? Young master, are you living in this era? The Land family hospital is facing medical malpractice and has been scolded badly. Miss Lan must be suffering too, Mo-san speculated. Alright, well, I have my own plans. Is there still no news from Rong Zi? Mojan Rang was more concerned about Zero's situation. He just does it when he's happy, and if he isn't interested, he'll drag it out, said Mo-san as he smiled. Rush him. Mojan Rang took a deep breath of the cigar, threw the remaining half on the ground, and stomped out the cigar before walking to his car. Young master, old Mrs. Mo said she misses Miss Lan and wants her to come over for a gathering. Mo-san stepped on the accelerator as he spoke. Mojan Rang didn't want to see Lan Ayn Rand again, but he had no choice but to see her. Seeing Mojan Rang remain silent, Mo-san continued. Young master, are you still scared of Miss Lan? It's because Miss Lan is too enthusiastic about you. It's as though she has seen you in her past life. I'm scared when I see this too, but there aren't many women who can compare to Miss Lan's intelligence and beauty. Mojan Rang was annoyed. Shut up, I'm tired. He closed his eyes and spoke impatiently. Mo-san could only drive in silence. The next morning, Mojan Rang and Mo-san arrived at the Lan family's house early. Before they entered, they ran into Lan Ayn Rand and her brother, who were going to school. What are you doing here? Ayn Rand's tone was grim. Ayn Rand, wait for me in the car, Ayn Rand said as she smiled. Ayn Rand rolled his eyes at the Mo family and left. Junrong, why are you here? Ayn Rand looked at Mojan Rang completely when she spoke, causing him to feel uncomfortable. It's nothing. Old Mrs. Mo misses you and wants to see you. Mo-san felt like a huge third wheel, but he couldn't escape. Oh, I'll be there after school. Ayn Rand smiled, her eyes sparkling. Miss Lan, I heard that something happened to your family recently. I wanted to ask if you were well, Mo-san continued. It's all right. I'm all right. Is Jinrong showing concern for me? As Ayn Rand spoke, she subconsciously inched closer to Mojan Rang with a bright smile. Miss Lan, is my butler as handsome as me? Don't forget, you are married. Lan Ayn Rand smiled and said after Mo-san finished speaking, Yes, he's very handsome. Of course I know that I'm married, but I'm not sure who I'm married to. Ayn Rand continued to stare at Mojan Rang, the ambiguous smile on her face making Mojan Rang suspicious. Sis, we're going to be late for school, Ayn Rand shouted from the car. Got it. Don't worry. I'll go to Grandma's house after school. Ayn Rand smiled and turned around. Suddenly she turned around and shouted loudly, Mojan Rang, your door is open. Close it. Mojan Rang was stunned. Door? What door? The two of them were in a little daze. Suddenly, Mojan Rang noticed that Mo-san's zipper wasn't zipped, revealing his red underwear. He turned around and spoke softly. Your zipper is open. Mo-san looked down and his face flushed. He was wearing a white suit, and the red underwear was obvious. It was embarrassing. He pulled it up quickly and shyly. This is my natal year. My natal year. Miss Lan doesn't respect me at all. She spoke so loudly as though she was afraid the others wouldn't know. Mo-san reproached her. What do you think Lin Ayn Rand meant by the last sentence? Mojin Rong was thinking about Ayn Rand's every word. Which sentence? Mosan asked. Does she know that I'm still Mojin Rong? He wondered. To be quite honest with you, with her intelligence when she visited old Mrs. Mo, not to mention that your excuse was too far-fetched, even an idiot could tell. But it is suspicious if she knew and didn't say anything. Yeah, the auditions are approaching. We can't let anything go wrong. You need to keep an eye on Lan Ayn Rand, Mojin Rong instructed. Young master, I forgot to report something about the Lin Corporation to you. Speak. Ayn Rand has shaken off the tails before, which means she has long discovered us, but she didn't say anything, Mosan analyzed. Why did you wait until now to tell me? Tell these people to withdraw. We won't be able to find anything else anymore. Mojin Rong was a little surprised, but he quickly calmed down. His men were all retired special forces, and their tracking and surveillance skills were top-notch. To think that they were discovered by Lan Ayn Rand. She really wasn't an ordinary person. Next, she would definitely hide her tracks, and it would be useless to monitor her. It was just a waste of time. Yes. Ayn Rand and Yan Rand had reached their respective classrooms. Zhao Xiaolei held the poster of Lu Taiyan Entertainment and showed it excitedly. Ayn Rand, look! Lu Taiyan Entertainment is having an audition. This is great! Zhao Xiaolei, with your thick arms and short legs, you should forget it. They won't choose a fatty to be an actress, Lin Cheng sneered. This sentence made a portion of the class chuckle. Shameless toad! Zhao Xiaolei cursed fiercely. Lin Cheng had recently developed some pimples on his face and looked like a toad, hence Zhao Xiaolei calling him a toad every day. What did you say? Repeat yourself. Lin Cheng was furious and stepped forward to beat Zhao Xiaolei. What are you doing? Ayn Rand stood up, pushed Lin Cheng aside, and looked at him with a piercing gaze. Zhao Xiaolei found her deskmate great, so she glared at Lin Cheng. Lin Cheng suddenly had a bad idea. He smiled evilly and pulled Lan Ayn Rand over to the wall. With one hand against the wall, he looked straight at Lan Ayn Rand. The class was shocked, and Zhao Xiaolei was stunned. What kind of storyline was this? Chapter 93. Teaching Lin Cheng a lesson. Do you think it's fun? Lan Ayn Rand wasn't scared. She stared straight into Lin Cheng. It's not fun, but you are. As Lin Cheng spoke, he moved closer to Lan Ayn Rand's face. He realized suddenly that she was unusually pretty, and the scent on her body was very fragrant. He spoke teasingly. I'll count to 3. If you don't get lost now, don't blame me for being harsh. Ayn Rand spoke calmly. The entire class fell silent as they watched the scene. Sure, I'll be waiting. Lin Cheng didn't care. What abilities could a countryside girl have? Who didn't know how to threaten others? 1, 2. Ayn Rand's expression grew colder and colder. She paused when she counted to 3. Are you sure you don't want to let go of me? Her questioning tone frightened Lin Cheng, but he didn't let go. 3! Just then, Lan Ayn Rand suddenly kicked Lin Cheng in the crotch. Lin Cheng's face gradually changed, sweating profusely from the pain. Ah! Lan Ayn Rand! He wanted to stand up, but the pain was getting worse. His face gradually changed and he was curled up on the ground, his hand covering his injured area as he stared at Lan Ayn Rand with bloodshot eyes. You didn't have to look at me. If you don't want to die without offspring, go to the infirmary. Lan Ayn Rand returned to her seat calmly. The people present were so instantly stunned and their hearts ached. That's amazing! Lin Cheng's remaining life is over, they whispered. Lan Ayn Rand is finished. The Lin family is such a big corporation, and they're relying on Lin Cheng to carry on the family line. Now that he has become an Enoch, the Lin family won't forgive her. They shared their thoughts. I heard balls shattering. It hurts, a male voice whispered. Those that come from the countryside will only solve their problems forcefully. Sun Hai seemed dissatisfied with Lan Ayn Rand, but she idolized her and didn't say anything. A few of them carried Lin Cheng to the infirmary, and along the way, Lin Cheng's cries rang through the entire teaching block. Just then, the school bell rang and Li Yu walked in. Many people were eliminated from yesterday's test, but there's one classmate that passed. Zhao Xiaolei, congratulations! The classroom broke into a resounding applause. Zhao Xiaolei looked happy, but she wasn't. Advancing meant that she had to compete and make medicine. Just the thought of it was a heartache. She was envious of Lan Anran. After the day was over, the incident between Anran and Lin Cheng had spread like wildfire in the school. Various versions were released, but Lan Anran didn't care. She slowly packed her bag and prepared to leave. Anran, your incident has spread like wildfire. What should we do? Zhao Xiaolei was a little worried. It's alright. I don't care. Anran smiled lightly and turned to leave, making Xiaolei envious. After school, Lan Anran parted ways with Yanran at the school gate. Sis, what happened at school today? Yanran was curious. He heard various versions. Some said that Anran and Lin Cheng were in a relationship, while others said that Anran broke up with Lin Cheng and that she was so furious that she abused him. It's nothing serious. Tell Mom and Dad that I'm going to the Mo family and we'll be back later. She was just about to turn around when Lan Yaxin appeared in front of her. Sis, there are many rumors about you in school today. Are they true? What has that got to do with you, ugly freak? Yanran stood in front of Anran and said, You. Yaxin was a little angry. Since when were you so nosy? There are things that you shouldn't know. It's no fun to gossip. Anran smiled and said, Blah, 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 blah. Yanran made a face at her and laughed. A vixen that seduces men everywhere. See if I don't tell Grandma. Lan Yaxin cursed and went home. At the Mo family, old Mrs. Mo was overjoyed to see Lan Anran, and she held her hand. I haven't seen you in a few days, but Anran is getting prettier. Grandma is also younger than before. Anran was very sweet, making old Mrs. Mo very happy. Look at how eloquent this little girl is. In the future, Jinrong will be busy with work and won't have time to come over to accompany you. You can come over and chat with Grandma. Grandma is lonely here all alone. Why don't I see Aunt today? Anran found it strange that Xu Pei wasn't around today. In her past life, Xu Pei had have surrounded old Mrs. Mo every day and wouldn't leave her side at all. It didn't feel right that she didn't see Xu Pei at such an occasion. Are you referring to Chang Wen's wife? Recently, Chang Wen hasn't been behaving himself. He actually dares to have a mistress. Chang Wen's wife is probably watching him right now. You can't blame her for this. It's my useless son who has gone overboard. It's alright with his wife to discipline him. But don't worry, Jinrong definitely won't have such a problem. I raised him single-handedly. I know his temperament and rationality very well. In the past few years, he hasn't touched a single woman, but every time he marries a woman, she dies within 2 days. I'm not saying this to scare you, Anran, but you have to be mentally prepared, old Mrs. Mo reminded her. Chapter 94, Mo Jinrong's illness. Grandma, don't worry, my life isn't just ordinarily tough. I will definitely turn misfortune into blessings, but there's something strange I want to ask you. Anran spoke slowly. Tell me, Jinrong seems to have some heart disease, she asked. Oh, you know about this. It seems that you and Jinrong are a match made in heaven. The story will start when Jinrong was just a young boy. Back then, Jinrong had returned to the country for 2 years and had a younger sister, Mo Ying. She was 11 years old and was good at all the 4 arts. She loved music. On the day of the incident, she was supposed to go abroad to get a piano certification, but unexpectedly, Mo Ying had a heart attack on the plane. This was an illness she had since she was born. Normally, she would be fine after taking some medicine, but Jinrong wasn't by her side at that day, and Mo Ying passed away because she missed the best time to take her medicine. Perhaps Jinrong carried too much guilt at a young age, and had always felt regretful and guilty about his sister's death. But he suddenly got angina and almost died every time his illness acted up. But this illness is strange. It will only flare up when he touches a woman, and at other times, he isn't uncomfortable at all. He has visited countless doctors and renowned doctors, and they had found no problem, but they couldn't cure his angina. I was also very troubled by this. He is about to turn 30, and he is the only heir to the Mo family. But he was diagnosed with this illness and couldn't touch a woman all these years. That the Mo family couldn't afford to not have any descendants. That was why he had 5 wives. It was quite strange that the wife died as soon as she married to him, causing no other girl to marry him. Even if the Mo family had billions of assets, they could not have a single offspring. It was when you appeared that I realized his illness seemed to have gotten better. You are his medicine. Old Mrs. Mo spoke tirelessly, which was why she liked Ayn Rand so much. Ayn Rand had a rough understanding of Mo Jinrong's illness, which was similar to what she saw in his dream. She was thinking about how little she knew about Mo Jinrong in her past life, but not even knowing that he had a sister. Grandma, I think it's a psychological illness. Why didn't you bring Jinrong to a psychologist? Ayn Rand asked curiously. Since the hospital couldn't find any illness, it had to be a psychological illness, and it should be affected for him to see a psychologist. Old Mrs. Mo waved her hand and shook her head. He did. These psychiatrists are just hypocrites. They prescribe medicine that applies to everyone. It's useless. As the saying goes, habit cures habit. Jinrong will only have to rely on himself to get out of this mess. Jinrong is a pitiful child. His parents abandoned him abroad when he was a child and only brought him back when he grew up. After a few days after he was brought back, his parents died unexpectedly, and I raised him after. Jinrong has been introverted since he was a child, but he was good at business like his father. In a few short years, he led the Mo Family Corporation to the top of the world. He didn't disappoint my expectations in nurturing. Old Mrs. Mo's eyes lit up with happiness at the mention of her grandson. He was an outstanding person, and every time she saw Mo Jinrong, it was as though she saw her son was still alive. This thought made her sad, and she sighed. Grandma, don't worry. I'll take good care of Jinrong, Ayn Rand promised. This comforted old Mrs. Mo. She changed the topic and smiled as she picked up the pastries on the table. This is a new product developed by our chef. Try it and bring more back for your parents to taste. Ayn Rand nodded, picked up a piece of sugar cake, and took a small bite. It was soft and sweet. The life of a wealthy family was indeed different. Old Mrs. Mo could tell Ayn Rand liked it very much, so she asked someone to bring some back for Lantang Young and his wife. Ayn Rand, come often if you like. You are always welcome to come back any time you want. Old Mrs. Mo smiled. She was very satisfied with this granddaughter-in-law, agreeing to almost every request. Ayn Rand nodded. Ayn Rand, I heard that you won the wrong city and pharmacy competition? Old Mrs. Mo asked again. It's just a written test. I haven't attended the interview yet. Ayn Rand finished the last bite of pastry and smiled. That's good enough already. Do you want me to use my connections to get you to the Medical Research Institute? The Medical Research Institute needs people like you. Old Mrs. Mo didn't just fancy Ayn Rand. She had already sent someone to find out everything about the Land family. She had her own selfish motives. Ayn Rand was smart and intelligent, and their family owned a traditional Chinese medical hospital. This suited everything about the Mo family, and the marriage between the two families would definitely bring about great benefits. This was the reason behind the marriage between the two families. Ayn Rand shook her head. It's all right. Thank you, Grandma. I'm confident I can get in. Old Mrs. Mo was overjoyed. Good, good. My granddaughter-in-law is the best. I heard that your grandma is a powerhouse in the medical field, and I wanted to meet her for a long time. I wonder when I will have the chance to ask her for advice. I wouldn't dare to ask. Grandma hasn't been well recently. I'll get her to meet you when she's feeling better. Ayn Rand wouldn't let that old thing come over to see old Mrs. Mo. She wasn't worthy at all. Chapter 95. Related? Old Mrs. Mo nodded and smiled. Since she isn't in good health, we'll meet when she recovers. Ayn Rand nodded. Oh, right. I heard that there was a problem in your father's hospital recently. Would you like to use the Mo family's connection to solve it? It'll be easier to solve the problem. Old Mrs. Mo always wanted to help Ayn Rand solve problems. Grandma, the Ministry of Health is almost done with their investigation. I believe that Dad is innocent, and we'll get the results soon. Ayn Rand spoke gently. When it was dinner time, Ayn Rand stayed in the Mo family home for dinner. Old Mrs. Mo originally wanted her to stay another night, but Ayn Rand politely declined on the grounds that something had happened at home, and she had to accompany her parents. Hearing this, old Mrs. Mo didn't let her stay any longer. After coming out of the Mo family's house, she received news from the hospital. Lanting's hospital didn't handle the injured poorly and weren't responsible for malpractice. They were able to clear Lanting Young's name immediately. Ayn Rand didn't go home directly, but contacted Fatty. Fatty, I'm going to take a look at the medical equipment now, she messaged. All right. Yunshan Southern Road Warehouse. It was Fatty's stronghold where he stored all the medical equipment. Ayn Rand arrived in a taxi 20 minutes later. Boss, you're here. Let me tell you, these medical devices are definitely good. I've checked them and they aren't any problems. Not even a single part is missing. Fatty spoke directly. Ayn Rand walked into the warehouse and turned on the lights. There was a row of beautiful medical equipment lying neatly packaged in the warehouse. There were about 100 of them. These medical devices are perfect. Last time you said they were from the Lin Corporation? Ayn Rand asked. Yeah, Mo Jinrong was there the last time when you were at the Lin Corporation. The Lin Corporation specifically gifted it to express their gratitude to Mo Jinrong. I don't know if Lin Jikong was angry, but these equipment can be sold for a lot of money. Why would they gift such an expensive equipment? Fatty asked. Is the Lin Corporation related to Mo Jinrong and Shang Tian? Ayn Rand guessed. I don't know, but I can't understand Shang Tian. He is involved in mysterious matters, but this is a losing deal. Why is such a good item being sold at a low price on the black market? Fatty couldn't understand. Ayn Rand thought for a moment. Mo Jinrong's men are not monitoring me anymore. Mo Jinrong's men aren't monitoring me anymore. They probably do not find anything. Watch him now. I want to see what he's up to. All right, boss. What should we do with these things? The Fatty pointed to the equipment. Tomorrow, call Zhao Ming over and tell him to pretend to be my classmate. That these are the discounted equipment from his company. Move them to Dad's hospital. We have been in need for some medical equipment recently. Ayn Rand had thought about long ago. Like this, she would save a lot of money. But boss, why is it Zhao Ming? He is so small and thin like a pole. He's the only one on the team who looks like a nerd while carrying a book. I would be a good choice. Fatty demonstrated his youthfulness. What I want is a nerd. Why would I want a foodie like you? He was born in the 90s era. Who would believe you, who was born in the 80s, as my classmate? Ayn Rand smiled and said, All right, I'm old. Fatty sighed. Don't joke around. It's Saturday tomorrow. Wait at the back door of the hospital when you're done. After Fatty agreed, she left. Early the next morning, Lanting Young woke up to go to work. The hospital had just regained its reputation, and it was rumored that many people had come to the hospital the previous night. This medical disturbance was both a blessing and a curse. Dad, wait a minute. I have something to tell you. Ayn Rand called out to her father. Is there news of medical equipment? Lanting Young asked, surprised. Ayn Rand nodded. It's like this, Dad. My classmate gave me a discount and the price was low. He just opened, so he wants to try it out first. Don't worry, it's definitely good equipment that has every component. But he has a condition. Lanting Young panicked. Tell me, I'll do anything. It's nothing much. He just gave me a discounted price because it's me. We can't let his parents know about it. When the equipment arrives, don't tell anyone that it was obtained at a discounted price, and don't reveal the origins of the equipment. Ayn Rand was conflicted. This was the first time she lied, and she felt that it was full of loopholes. Why are you being so mysterious? Actually, hospitals are completely capable of paying such a price. It doesn't matter if there's no discount, as this is their first time doing business. How can they suffer a loss? Besides, if it's good, wouldn't it be a good thing if Dad wants to cooperate with them for a long time? Yeah, Ayn Rand, it's their first time doing business. Why can't we let them suffer? Mom and Dad aren't first-timers in the business, so how can we let them do this? We'll just pay the original price later. We can't do such a thing, the hero spoke. Mom, Dad, it's like this. I lied to you. This classmate, his family doesn't work in this field anymore, so he wanted to sell the last item at a low price. To be honest, he couldn't keep up with it anymore. He was afraid of embarrassing himself, so he got me to buy and sell it at a low price. Seeing that the first lie wouldn't work, Ayn Rand switched to another excuse. Lying was really difficult. I see. No wonder you're so mysterious. You're unwilling to divulge such things? Alright, but we'll still give them the original price. We can't take advantage of them, Lansing Young smiled and said. Ayn Rand hugged her father's neck and smiled. Dad is the best.